with us, who will be speaking on this wonderful topic with how Srila Prabhupada has made spiritualizing our lives so easy. Such a wonderful topic. And who could be a better person to speak on this topic than Prabhupada's own dear servant, His Grace Ramiya Prabhu has been serving Srila Prabhupada and his mission for over 45 years now. Both Prabhuji and Her Grace Ananta Mataji, Prabhuji's wife, they live in a Lachua community, and they have lots of responsibilities and services in Alachua, in Tallahassee, in Tampa, in USF, etc. So we are very, very blessed, grateful, and fortunate that Prabhuji will be enlightening us and giving his wonderful association to all of us. So let's welcome Prabhuji by 3 times loudly chanting Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Now it's over to you.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Givaradari Gopi Janavallabha Givaradari Yasodanandana Brajadana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajadana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Ram Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Ram Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Prabhatak Vyarya Sadara Sata Shri Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Anantikoti Vaishnava Ki ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Prem Se Go Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki Shri Vrindavan Mathura Dham Ki Shri Navadip Mayapur Dham Ki Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Ganga Mai Ki Jamuna Mai Ki Bhakti Devi Ki Srimati Tulsi Devi Ki Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Kantaraj Ki Jai Gaur Premanand. All glories, simple devotees, all glories, simple devotees. All glories, simple devotees, all glories, Shri Guru and Shri Guru, all glories, Shri Guru. Om Agyanatimarandasya Gananjana Chalakaya Chakyurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapidam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamala Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shcha. Hey Krishna Karana Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Dapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwe Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakopa Trubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Bhaktitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnevo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 So today I'm going to share my screen with you because we're going to be doing a specific topic here, which I've compiled from various listings in Srila Prabhupada's books. Srila Prabhupada has made our spiritualizing our lives very easy. So this topic is actually quite important because we are all attracted here to learn about spiritual life, to learn how to practice spiritual life, and to try and do something extraordinary. But if we look at the world in general, it's not so easy. If we look at the world and beyond this Krishna conscious movement, there's not a clear sense of what will make one successful. There are different religions and different philosophies, but to actually implement a program in one's own life that will be assured of the greatest success, to go back home, back to Godhead, and the offerings are very meager and often quite challenging, especially in this Kali Yuga. So Srila Prabhupada, of course, introduced us to the concept of the four regulative principles. In the beginning, Prabhupada didn't even announce the four regulative principles very quickly so that the students would continue to attend his classes and try to understand. But eventually, when it was time for initiation, in the very beginning, Prabhupada said, okay, all those who want to be initiated have to follow these four regular principles. So in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam's 4th canto, chapter 22, text 34, Prabhupada says, those who desire to cross the ocean of nescience must not associate with the modes of ignorance. For hedonistic activities are the greatest obstruction to realization of religious principles, economic development, regulated sense gratification, and at last liberation. And in the purport, Prabhupada describes how the four principles of life allow one to live according to religious principles. Earn money and function in society, enjoy some level of sense gratification, and progress towards spiritual life. But he says, at the present moment, human civilization does not care for religious principles. It is, however, in the greatest interest of the economic development without religious principles. It is interested greatly in economic development without religious principles. And we can see this rampant in all the countries around the world. For instance, in the slaughterhouse, the butchers certainly get money easily, but such business is not based on religious principles. Similarly, there are many nightclubs for sense gratification and brothels for sex. Sex, of course, is allowed in married life, but prostitution is prohibited because all of our activities are ultimately aimed at liberation, at freedom from the clutches of material existence. Similarly, although the government may license liquor shops, and of course the sales of liquor, this does not mean that the liquor shop should be opened unrestrictedly and then illicit liquor smuggle. Licensing is meant for restricting. But he probably makes an interesting point. He says, no one has to take a license for sugar, wheat, or milk, because there is no need to restrict these things. And then this is the important quote. In other words, it is advised that one not act in a way that will obstruct regular process of advancement in spiritual life and liberation. The Vedic process of sense gratification is therefore planned in such a way that one can economically develop and enjoy sense gratification and yet attain liberation. So this is very important, because if we study actually in the other processes of yoga, that sense gratification is severely restricted. One may have to go into seclusion, into the forest or into the Himalayas, and perform severe austerities for many years to make some advancement in spiritual life. And even that is very tenuous, because at the first chance, the first opportunity, temptation, one may fall down. So Prabhupada is telling us very clearly, what does spiritual life begin with? The four regular principles: no meat eating, no gambling, no illicit sex, and no intoxication. So Prabhupada, when he was coming to the United States, people were telling him, advising him, no, don't introduce these, because no one will be interested. No one will follow. But of course, Srila Prabhupada did introduce them, not only to a limited number of people, but all those in any country, in any part of the world, who were interested in spiritual development. So again, in focusing, Prabhupada says in 4th canto, chapter 22 and text 35, that one should therefore seek the shelter of the Supreme Personality of the Godhead and engage in his devotional service. That is real liberation. The conclusion is that we should not stress pious activities, economic development, and sense gratification, but we should concern ourselves with approaching Lord Vishnu and his spiritual planets, which is the topmost, of which the topmost is Goloka Vrindavan, where Lord Kṛṣṇa lives. Therefore, this Krishna conscious movement is the greatest gift for persons who are actually desiring liberation. So people actually do want liberation. We all want liberation. We're not interested in suffering. If they opened a new business and put shops on every corner offering us different ways to suffer, no one would go there, because everyone is trying by their own endeavors to avoid suffering in this material world. But they don't know how. They don't know what is the key. So these 4 principles are so important for human life, to actually gain liberation from these modes of nature and from the cycle of birth and death. So Prabhupada introduced these. And then, what else? Prabhupada introduced the chanting of 16 rounds of the Hare Krishna mantra on beads. Of course, Lord Chaitanya gave that personal example that he would chant daily on beads, counting numerical strength, as Prabhupada would say, Hare Krishna mantra, and that this was the process to actually connect with Krishna, to please Krishna, to serve Krishna, and to become engaged in spiritual life. So in the purport of the 4th canto, 8th chapter, text 72, Prabhupada said, we should always remember that to become a bona fide devotee of the Lord is not an easy task. But in this age, by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, it has been made very easy. So Prabhupada is bringing Lord Chaitanya's teachings to us. And we can say that Prabhupada has made it even easier. If we do not follow even the liberal instructions of Lord Chaitanya, how can we expect to discharge our regular duties in devotional service? It is not possible in this age to follow Dhruva Maharaj in his austerities, but principles must be followed. We should not disregard the regular principles given by our spiritual master, for they make it easier for the conditioned soul. As far as our ISKCON movement is concerned, we simply ask that one observe the 4 prohibitive rules and chant 16 rounds, instead of indulging in luxurious eating where the tongue, simply accept prasadam offered to the Lord. We cannot do anything like what Dhruva Maharaj did for self-realization, because we are absolutely incompetent to execute such service. But Lord Chaitanya's mercy, by his Lord Chaitanya's mercy, we have been given all concessions possible for this age. So at least we should always remember that neglect of our prescribed duties of devotional service will not make us successful in the mission we have undertaken. It is our duty to follow in the footsteps of Dhruva Maharaj, for he was very determined. But we should also be determined to finish our duties in executing devotional service in this life. We should not wait for another life to finish our job. So this is Prabhupada telling us that Lord Chaitanya made it as easy as possible for us, and we can say that Prabhupada even made it easier. But if we're negligent in following the process that Srila Prabhupada gave, we will not be successful. So it is quite clear to us that Prabhupada is extending mercy, uplifting us, guiding us, giving us the opportunity to engage in Krishna's service, which is so rare, extremely rare in this material world. And he's not asking us to follow the process that Dhruva Maharaj did, where we have to restrict our eating and our breathing and our drinking so much that it practically stops. We do not have to go and live in the forest, abandoning all our social friends and family. We do not have to go for months and years practicing great austerities, but simply execute this process that Prabhupada has given us, and that will make us successful. So he has made it very easy. Some people are not happy with that, but it's unfortunate. In Kali Yuga, people don't like any restriction. So again, in the 7th canto, 5th chapter, text 23, Prabhupada indicates, when one chants the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his heart is cleansed of all mundane contamination. Now this is so important, because if we keep mundane contamination in our hearts, we will not actually achieve the spiritual world. We will not actually achieve service to Krishna's lotus feet. Krishna is completely Satchidananda, complete spirit. And to approach him, we have to become qualified to be on that platform. We cannot keep all our material engagements and simply try to expect that we're going to achieve success. It doesn't work like that. So we have to make that effort to purify our heart of all mundane contamination by chanting the holy name of Krishna. So then one may ask, well, that's very nice, but I live at home with family. I have work to do, my duties. This is not normally a path for a spiritual life, to stay engaged in this way. But
Hare Krishna. Sorry to interrupt, Prabhuji. Can you please zoom in your screen if possible, so it's clear?
what are we doing?
Can you expand, zoom in?
You want to increase the clarity here.
The bottom right, Prabhuji, there is a bottom right side, there is a plus. If you click on the bottom right plus, yes, a little less.
Tell me when it's good. Good? Can you see?
Yeah, maybe one or two more,
Wow.
just for.
Okay.
Yes, that's good. Thank you so much.
So, how to serve Krishna? Anyone can do this in their own home or in the temple. So in the book, The Quest for Enlightenment, Srila Prabhupada makes it clear how important it is for everyone to practice Krishna consciousness, devotional service to Lord Krishna. And of course, living in association of Krishna's devotees in the temple or ashram will make it easier to practice devotional service. But if you are determined, you can follow at home the teachings of Krishna consciousness and thus convert your home into a temple. So we all know that being in the temple is very powerful. But Prabhupada made it clear that we can make our own houses into temples. So they are a center of spiritual activity. So spiritual life, like material life, means practical activity. The difference is that whereas we perform material activities for the benefit of ourselves or those we consider ours, we perform spiritual activities for the benefit of Lord Krishna, under the guidance of the scriptures and the spiritual master. The key is to accept the guidance of the scriptures and the Guru. Krishna declares in the Bhagavad Gita that a person can achieve neither happiness nor the supreme destination, going back to Godhead, back to Lord Krishna, if he or she does not follow the injunctions of the scriptures. And how to follow the spiritual rules? By engaging in the practical service to the Lord. That is explained by a bona fide spiritual master. Without following the instructions of a spiritual master who is in an authorized chain of disciplic succession coming from Lord Krishna himself, we cannot make any progress. The practices outlined here are timeless practices of bhakti yoga given by the foremost spiritual master and exponent of Krishna consciousness in our time, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, ISKCON. The purpose of spiritual knowledge is to bring us closer to God or Krishna. And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita 18:55, Bhaktyamam abhijanati. I can be known only by devotional service. So knowledge guides us in proper action, and spiritual knowledge directs us to satisfy the desires of Lord Kṛṣṇa through practical engagements in his loving service. Without practical application, theoretical knowledge is of little value. So spiritual knowledge is meant to direct us in all aspects of life. We should endeavor, therefore, to organize our lives in such a way as to follow Krishna's teachings as far as possible. We should try to do our best to do more than is simply convenient. Then it will be possible for us to rise to the transcendental plane of Krishna consciousness, even while living far from a temple. So this quote I thought was particularly helpful for all of us, because many of you do not live so close to a temple, or in this age of pandemic, it is not easy to go to a temple and spend much time. So even in that situation, we can approach Krishna. We can approach the supreme destination by following these instructions Prabhupada gives us, because he's coming and authorized disciplic succession. He is authorized by Kṛṣṇa and all those who are following Kṛṣṇa, the great acharyas, the great teachers throughout history. And they are fully authorizing, blessing, empowering his instructions to give us that result, that success. So very important, because if one is not coming in a disciplic succession, there's no guarantee where you'll end up. Many of these factors were unknown to those who first joined Krishna consciousness before meeting Srila Prabhupada. Some of you may be aware of these principles due to a very fortunate exposure in your younger life. But we want spiritual knowledge that actually practically engages us in Krishna consciousness and brings us closer to Krishna. So Prabhupada is instructing us, like all the food. Food is very important in the life of every individual. Yet that process of cooking and eating can be made fully spiritual by cooking and offering to Krishna, and then consuming only those foods offered to Krishna. Then that whole process of eating, which can be very encumbering and entangling, it now becomes a source of elevation. Similarly, we are reading and hearing so many materials of interest. But if we hear and chant what Prabhupada has given us, the Shastra, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna book, Bhagavad Gita, these topics will help us to remember Krishna and elevate us. So Prabhupada gave us so many books, so we would not be stuck. Some religious organizations have only one book, and the members try to understand, but Prabhupada has given us so many books to understand from so many different ways and to remain inspired. So it's very, very important. Now, here in the next topic, serving the spiritual master, serving his mission, are spiritually elevating. So there's another book called Renunciation Through Wisdom. And in the second chapter, 12th verse, is quoted, "O people of the world, please try to translate the Gita's message into action and channel your thoughts towards Lord Krishna's lotus feet. Serve him with your body, mind and body, and if you dovetail all your energy toward in the Lord's service, then not only will you feel intense exhilaration in this lifetime, you will be immersed in eternal bliss in the spiritual world, perpetually serving him." The most munificent incarnation of Godhead, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, recently invented in the age of Kali to propagate this message by great fortune of all Bengalis. He appeared in Bengal and blessed the Bengali race. Thus, the Bengalis can preach his mission and instructions to the entire human race and deliver the people of the planet and themselves. So I thought this particular quote might be enlivening to those of you who have been born in the area of Bengal, where Prabhupada is directly addressing you. Of course, it applies to all of us, but that we can, by following and preaching what Prabhupada has given, we can help not only ourselves, but all the people on the planet, which will make us all very dear to Lord Kṛṣṇa and dear to Lord Chaitanya. So important this is, because with that blessing, everything becomes so much easier. And the opportunities to advance and to come close to Kṛṣṇa increase greatly. So what is the qualification? What do we need to bring? Faith. Faith is the only qualification. In chapter Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 3, text 20, chapter 24, text 13, the order of the spiritual master must be carried out without hesitation, with an immediate yes. There should be no argument. That is real service to the spiritual master. Vaishnava Chakrabarti Thakur has stated that the order of the spiritual master is the life and soul of the disciples. As a man cannot separate his life from his body, a disciple cannot separate the order of the spiritual master from his life. If a disciple follows the instructions of the spiritual master in that way, he is sure to become perfect. This is confirmed in the Upanishads. The import of the Vedic instruction is revealed automatically only to one who has implicit faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead and in his spiritual master. One may be materially considered an illiterate man, but if he has faith in the spiritual master as well as in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then the meaning of the scriptural revelation is immediately manifested before him. So, of course, Srila Prabhupada is referring to the great Acharya Vaishnava Chakrabarti Thakur, who has given comment on several verses from the Bhagavad Gita about how important it is. What is the key to advancing in spiritual life? And that is to take the order of the spiritual master as one's life and soul, and to feel that he cannot be separated from that order in any position in his life. This, of course, takes time. It takes association. It takes practice to develop that level of deep faith. But it should be our goal. And it should be our guiding principle. That if we follow this concept of complete surrender to the spiritual master with no argument, then that will be service. And Prabhupada repeats this in Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela, chapter 7, text 95 and 96 purport. Only unto those great souls who have implicit faith both in the Lord and the spiritual master are all the imports of Vedic knowledge automatically and revealed. This Vedic injunction is very important. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu supported it by his personal behavior, believing in the words of his spiritual master. He introduced the Sankirtan movement just as the present Krishna consciousness movement was started with belief in the words of our spiritual master. He wanted to preach. We believed in his words and we tried somehow or other to fulfill them. And now this movement has become successful all over the world. Therefore, faith in the words of the spiritual master and in the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the secret of success. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu never disobeyed the orders of his spiritual master and stopped propagating the Sankirtan movement. So this is also a very focused, a major point. To have that level of confidence and faith in the spiritual master's order and dedication to it, unequivocally, without question, without disagreement, without deviation. It is essential to what it means to be a disciple in Prabhupada's definition. You may have heard so many definitions of disciples and so many ideas of what is spiritual life. But if we take Prabhupada's direction and Prabhupada's explanation, then this level of faith is the elementary, essential quality of a devotee who is going to make progress in spiritual life. So when one has that faith, then he will strictly follow the spiritual master. In Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila, text, chapter 12, text 10, there's a verse that says, some disciples accepted the order of the Charya, in this case was Advaita Charya, and others deviated independently, concocting their own opinions under the spell of Daivi Maya. Purport. This verse describes the beginning of a schism. When disciples do not stick to the principle of accepting the order of their spiritual master, immediately there are two opinions. Any opinion different from the opinion of the spiritual master is useless. One cannot infiltrate materially concocted ideas into spiritual advancement. That is deviation. There is no scope for adjusting spiritual advancement to material ideas. So here we get another picture that this absolute focus and dedication to the spiritual master, what it means not to introduce other ideas and other opinions, but to become strictly dedicated to what Srila Prabhupada has given us and is coming down to us through disciplic succession in ISKCON today. Srila Prabhupada defines that to come up with separate ideas on how to progress and what is spiritual life creates a deviation. That will not give us success. So very important to follow this very carefully without deviation. And then Srila Prabhupada, I've taken here some other statements here to help us. Because we are not, to struggle on our own is quite difficult. We are not so clear, not so focused that we can understand everything independently on our own in a separate way. So Jana Sangha from Nectar of Instruction, text 2, purport, Jana Sangha means associating with persons not interested in Kṛṣṇa consciousness. One should strictly avoid such association. Narottam Das Thakur has therefore advised us to live only in association of Kṛṣṇa conscious devotees, Bhakta Sanivas. One should always engage in the service of Lord Kṛṣṇa in the association of the Lord devotees. Association with those engaged in similar line of business is very conducive to advancement in that business. So Prabhupada uses the business concept, which some of us are familiar with, that if you want to advance the business, you need to associate with others who are doing the similar business. And then you find out all the secrets and all the important aspects that are necessary for success. Consequently, materialistic persons form various associations and clubs to enhance their endeavors. For example, in the business world, we find such institutions as the Stock Exchange and Chamber of Commerce. Similarly, we have established the International Society for Kṛṣṇa Consciousness. to give people an opportunity to associate with those who have not forgotten Kṛṣṇa. This spiritual association offered by our ISKCON movement is increasing day by day. So Prabhupada is encouraging us to associate with other devotees who are strictly following him in ISKCON. And that this will help us and help them as well. And this is an important aspect to remaining strong and remaining focused in Kṛṣṇa consciousness, is to have the correct association of devotees who are focused on not forgetting Kṛṣṇa, on serving Kṛṣṇa, and following Prabhupada ISKCON in the proper disciplic succession. And finally, Srila Prabhupada gives a special key and purpose here, the 6 principles of loving exchange in Nectar of Instruction, text 4 purport. He says, even in ordinary social activities, these types of 6 dealings between loving friends are absolutely necessary. For instance, when one businessman wishes to contact another businessman, he arranges a feast in a hotel. And over the feast, he openly expresses what he wishes to do. He then inquires from his business friend how he should act. And sometimes presents are exchanged. And thus, whenever there is a dealing of priti or love in intimate dealings, these 6 activities are executed. In the previous verse, Srila Rupa Goswami advised us that we should renounce worldly association and keep the association of devotees. Sangha Tyaga Sato Vrite. The International Society for Kṛṣṇa Consciousness has been established to facilitate these 6 kinds of loving exchanges between devotees. This society was started single-handedly because people are coming forward and dealing with the give and take policy. The society is now expanding all over the world. The life of Kṛṣṇa Consciousness Society is nourished by these 6 types of loving exchanges among the members. Therefore, people must be given the chance to associate with devotees of ISKCON, because simply by reciprocating in the 6 ways mentioned above, an ordinary man can fully revive his dormant Kṛṣṇa consciousness. In the Bhagavad Gita is stated, one's desires and ambitions develop according to the company one keeps. It is often said that a man is known by his company, and if an ordinary man associates with devotees, he will certainly develop his dormant Kṛṣṇa consciousness. So this practice of offering prasad and receiving prasad, offering gifts and receiving gifts, and expressing one's mind in inquiring and hearing the inquiries of another person. Of course, spiritual related. These are the core types of exchanges in loving dealings. And we find that all our efforts to outreach are based on these 6 principles. We offer people sacred knowledge in the form of books. And we offer people prasadam. And we also discuss Kṛṣṇa consciousness and advise people how to practice and how to make their lives successful. And of course, as they reciprocate with us, their interest and their involvement increases. So these are the aspects which I have felt relevant for us today, because there are many other aspects, to how Srila Prabhupada has made it easy for us to practice spiritual life in this day and age. And I would like to now open up the conversation and ask if there's any questions or additions, corrections that anyone would care to offer. Many different topics, and like to go deeper in them as you find an interest.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. So Prabhuji, I heard in one lecture that the chanting on the beats started after the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He himself was chanting on the fingers. Can you give more information on it, please?
Initially started on the fingers, but then later he continued on beads. You know, and he would tell his associates, many of his, whenever he traveled, people would invite him for lunch. And he said he would only accept lunch from a lakpati. Do you know what a lakpati is? Do you know, people?
Can you please repeat again, Prabhuji? What party?
What is a lakpati?
One who chants 100,000 names of Krishna every day.
Oh,
One who chants 100,000 Mahamantras every day.
So we would say approximately 64 rounds a day. If you did not chant 64 rounds a day, Lord Chaitanya would visit your home. Now, Prabhupada has made that so much easier. And Prabhupada emphasized that numerical strength is very important in spiritual life. People may think it's artificial, or wait till I'm inspired, or there's so many concoctions. Because Prabhupada emphasized numeric strength, as did Lord Chaitanya. And from numeric strength, devotion develops. Just like you go to the office and you work every day. So if you whimsically one day go in 8 o'clock and next day you go in at 10 o'clock, someday at noon, people will not take you as a very serious in your profession. You have to consistently offer the same level of commitment every day in service. So Lord Chaitanya also explained that that is very important in Krishna consciousness and practice.
Yeah, I was just saying that isn't there samadhis that have the beads of the original 6 Goswamis or anything like that? I think there are.
There are some in Vrindavan, the samadhis of the Goswamis. Sometimes you will find their beads there, yes. The 6 Goswamis were the direct disciples of Lord Chaitanya, and they have given us the instructions, so many books, how to practice and understand Krishna consciousness. Does that satisfy you?
Yeah, Prabhuji, yeah, the question was like whether Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was chanting on beads or on finger marks. But rather than, sometimes I think that I feel like it is only personally for me that concentration is more on the beats than my chanting. Or sometimes I forget to turn on the beats, then I'm thinking, did I did 7 round or 8 round? So rather than if I take like, okay, I'll chant for 1.5 an hour or something, then or on beats sometimes, like I think beats taking my concentration away also sometimes it's really weird for me.
Initially, there may be some feeling like that is distracting. Of course, Prabhupada insisted that we take counter beads and keep track of our chanting like that. We are not so advanced human beings that we can keep so many things in our mind. While we're chanting, we can remember how many mantras we chanted, how many rounds we chanted. It's so simplified to keep track of counter beads, and it's actually quite easy. Sometimes we become a little forgetful and negligent, and that should awaken us that perhaps we're not chanting as attentively as we would need to. Because chanting with full attention means you're aware, not that you're drifting off into some nebulous state, but rather you're aware of what's going on, what you're doing, what you're saying.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Ramiya Prabhu, can I add something to this? Just a
Certainly.
small comment. Yes, thank you very much, Prabhu. Thank you for your purity. Your message is so loud and clear. So when Nityananda Prabhu told Lord Chaitanya when he was traveling to South India, he clearly states that you will need one person to carry your kamandalu because you'll have beads in your hands. So that's one reference which clearly states that Lord Chaitanya used to have beads, and on his he used to carry a string which would have he would count his number of rounds, Prabhu. And I can send you the reference. Hare Krishna, Dandavats.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. So people, I hope you took note of that reference to Prabhupada spoke directly to Bengalis.
Yes, Prabhuji. Under your guidance, trying, Prabhuji, though very insignificant.
Not that we want to think about how we are these bodies, but sometimes Prabhupada is directing statements to inspire us. So more questions.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, very nice lecture. Thank you, Dandavat Pranam. I have one question, Prabhuji, about, as you mentioned that Prabhupada says, do not associate with non-devotees. And also, on the other hand, you also mentioned in the lecture that some people has like dormant bhakti inside. So if you dig, then they may come and they become devotees. So Prabhuji, if I, like personally, if I talk to some non-devotees who are not practicing at all Krishna consciousness with the intention that to make them or to try to talk to them about Krishna, about Prabhupada, about the books, will that be a good way to approach, at least with the intention that to make them interested, Prabhuji?
Yes, definitely you have to approach people who are absorbed in their material life. And sometimes we engage them briefly in some mundane conversation just to capture their attention, just so that they feel there's some connection between us and them. Like devotees will say, "Oh, hello, how are you today? What city are you coming from?" It doesn't matter what city they've come from, but people are happy to talk about their travels and where they have been. You know? Or if we know somebody personally every day, then it's good to develop a relationship, some interest in their life, so that they will become interested in what we have to say. So these are simple principles trying to make people feel like, do you know Sanatana Goswami? He lived in Vrindavan for many years, and the people would come to see him daily, and he would inquire, how is your family? Is everyone keeping in good health? He would inquire, are your sons and daughters, are they getting properly married? It seemed all very mundane, and he's an acharya of our line, but he would talk to them about their ordinary affairs. And he became very dear to them, and they would all follow his spiritual teachings. So quite important to know how to deal with people. If people feel you're not interested in their mundane life, then they will not be much interested in you. That is natural. But we should remember these 6 kinds of loving exchanges. You remember them? Ashwati Mataji? To
No.
give gifts and receive gifts, to give prasadam, receive prasadam, to inquire confidentially and to hear others' confidential inquiries. A lot of times when people come to you, they'll say, oh, I am in so much distress that this happened, that happened. I don't know what to do. So if you can't openly talk to them, they will not be able to exchange and develop the other association. I hope that answered your question. Is it clear?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
So we should continue to have these 6 kinds of associations amongst ourselves, amongst the devotees as well, to show our loving affection.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you. Krishna.
Umesh Prabhu, did you have any question?
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Dandavat Pranam. You just said in the lecture, by the way, it was very nice lecture, and you just said that spiritual advancement is not for the material benefit. But sometimes it just feels that, first of all, I believe that you are not going to be spiritually advanced if your interest is in the material advancement. And the second thing, there are some people who don't know anything about Krishna consciousness, or they don't have even faith in the God, but still they are very successful. They are leading the life, very high quality life. And then the question comes to, like me, where we are basically, you know, where we are basically. I mean, it sometimes for me is a question, is it really is going to help us or not? Because we see the individual other souls, they are also successful in this material world without even surrendering to Krishna, or without even. So how do you see this?
Well, naturally, having been in the material world for many millions and billions of births, we have interest in our material situation. That's normal. But we have to see that Krishna says in the Bhagavata, Brahma Bhuvanar Loka Punar Janma Navijite, that all these places, wherever you get, whatever situation people achieve in the material world, he says they're all places of suffering and they're all temporary. So even the people that look like they are doing everything correctly and life is very nice, it's temporary. It's not going to last. And does that mean they're not going to die? Does that mean they're not going to grow old? Does that mean they'll never get sick? No. Happens to everyone, guaranteed. And if after that you don't know where you're going, then that is the greatest tragedy of human life. You had this opportunity to do something, to guide, do your efforts to a proper destination where these problems are solved forever, and you don't take advantage of it, then you are so misfortunate. So misfortunate. So they may appear to be fortunate on some material level, but if they don't have proper spiritual practices, it's a sad case. Kind of like a quick example, maybe it's pretty crude, but in 1929, many people thought they were very rich because the stock market in the United States had gone up very high and people had on their balance sheet on the paper which showed so much money. And then everything went down very quickly. And because they thought that that was their biggest achievement in life, when that happened, they even committed suicide. Just because some numbers changed on a piece of paper. Of course, there's more effect than that, but that is the first effect. Some numbers change on a piece of paper and people become so disturbed. So those who do not know the real purpose of life and are not practicing it, they're in a very unfortunate situation. Does that answer your question?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I mean, what good fortune do we want? Do we want to just keep a comfortable place in this material world and have a big 4,000 square foot house and a nice bank balance and so many family members in the house, and then one day death will come and finish it all? Then where will you go? No idea. So devotees are not interested in that. They consider that just a distraction. Just a distraction. Kind of like if you're on your way to work and you see a sign, free ice cream, and you stop and you go there, and then you forget to go to work, that would be a big mistake. The ice cream may be very nice, but it's not going to satisfy your purpose. The devotees generally are not interested in, they understand what Kṛṣṇa is offering. And by associating with other devotees, they come to be convinced that this is the goal. Material advancement, material prosperity, not the goal. That's will-o-wisp. Could be here, could be gone. You know, stock market, 1 minute it goes up, next day it could go right down, isn't it? So what is that number? It's just some paper, some imaginary numbers on a paper. As far as we look back, that's all it is. We want something substantial that can never be taken away from us. Is that okay?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
Other questions, comments?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you for such a nice and enlightening lecture. I have one question regarding your text 2 of NOI where Jan Sangas Tyagas, right? So there it is said that you have not to get associated with one who is not in Krishna consciousness, right? But at the same time, when we are in like official places, we have to get associated with people who are not in Krishna consciousness. Sorry, Prabhuji, just a minute.
Association means association means giving your affection.
Yeah.
So we are in association of people who are not in Krishna consciousness, right? And we spend about 8 to 10 hours in office among those people.
Yeah.
And at the same time, in a situation like where we are in this pandemic, we are not getting associated with devotees even. So how to bridge that gap? And also, I have heard in few lectures that associating with scriptures and reading Prabhupada books, it is similar to some association with like devotee association. So how can we understand that, and what we should do in these situations?
To answer your first question about associating with non-devotees, you're working 8-10 hours a day in an office. Of course, I did this for 40 years myself. And the experience is that this association, although, you know, it may not be inspiring, we're forced to do because of our occupation. And in all occupations, there are some good things and there are some negative things that must be tolerated. But the real point is, what is that association? What does it mean to associate with non-devotees? That means to allow them into your heart and exchange intimate advice and to reveal your heart to them for their advice. So you do not go to a non-devotee and say, do you think I should chant 16 rounds today? What do you think about this? They're not the proper persons to give you an opinion on that. You would never ask such opinion. Would you ask them, should I offer my food to Kṛṣṇa before eating? They're not the proper persons to ask that question. Similarly, if you're having some trial or some challenge in your life, perhaps maybe somebody died and you're feeling very unhappy. So you don't go to them and say, hey, what can we do? And they'll say, oh yeah, let's go down to the bar and we'll have some drinks and you'll feel better. you would not accept that association.
Yes.
So association means where you openly give your heart.
Okay.
And then as far as associating now in the pandemic, of course, you're all here. This is association. It's a little different quality. It's like there are many different fruits and vegetables in the garden. Some are a little one flavor, some are a little different flavor. But we cannot say, oh, I will only eat potatoes. I will not eat tomatoes. I will not eat okra. You know, we take whatever we can get and use it to our best advantage. So we have this opportunity where we remain safe, where we can associate even though it's some distance between us, and yet we can get some hearing and inspiration. And when there is an opportunity, we may take one-on-one association if there's an opportunity. You know, I sometimes consider this pandemic as something like entering into a world war. When there was a world war, people's lives were totally disturbed. They couldn't do normal activities properly. They were always under fear and always under adjustment because of the dangerous situation. So it is a bit like that. We're under precautions, so we don't unnecessarily take risks that would endanger ourselves and others. And yet, we try to take the best that is offered. And as far as Srila Prabhupada and reading his books and other spiritual books in ISKCON, and devotees constantly would, who met Prabhupada and associated with them, they would come back and say, when you are spending time with Prabhupada, it's exactly like reading his books. You get that same association, that same exchange and interest. The same guidance is there. And Prabhupada wrote his books with that purpose, that we can experience his guidance, his association. Similarly, for all great spiritual teachers, it is the same thing. When we are hearing their writings, they are opening up their hearts to us and sharing that with us and inviting us to take their guidance and their inspiration. So we are so fortunate that we have that opportunity to have so many books and recordings of Srila Prabhupada and even videos where we get that association, even though he is gone from us more than 40 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Other questions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Danat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for this wonderful class. It's always a good reminder to, stay in touch, just have your practice strong. And I mean, a lot of points that I wrote down many things. I said, okay, I need to remember these things on day in, day out, because I don't really, thanks to Kṛṣṇa, I don't really work outside or anything like that, but I'm home most of the time and the kids are here. But because of what they have, I feel that they're not really attracted to, serving the deities or doing any kind of devotional activity. I said, oh my God, Kṛṣṇa, this is such misfortune for them and they don't see it. So how do I encourage them? Or, I know they say that you should just be an example and that's it, but it's kind of hard sometimes.
Well, this is a challenge for all parents. How to cultivate a genuine interest in their children in Krishna consciousness. Of course, because it is so near and dear to us, we naturally hope and desire that they will have the same interest and same practice, and hopefully maybe even better practice than we are able to do. But the first thing to notice is that nothing's automatic in this world. Person has to endeavor. It doesn't fall in your lap, because those who think that take it very lightly. So I would encourage you to have a very real relationship, which I'm sure you do, with your children, and be aware of what they're doing, what's going on, their struggles, their interests, their desires in their life. And of course, as they grow older, you cannot speak to them in the same way. They have to be treated more as a friend, because their mind becomes more independent. When they're young, they will take instruction more, and when they're older, they may not. But if they consider you their friend, their well-wisher and advisor, then they will naturally turn to you and get your guidance when there's a problem. And if you tell them, keep telling them, chanting Hare Krishna is the way to attain real happiness. And give them sometimes little baby steps. You know, we call baby steps. Just chant a few mantras, 10 mantras, or just, you know, make one preparation for the deities, or some small thing. Because from small steps, bigger things happen. And we have to remember that whatever we're trying to do, they're getting directly, indirectly association from their peers and others due to their schooling and their other social events. So there's a competition for their attention. And we don't want them to feel that these things are like rituals, and that's just the culture in my family. But we want them to feel it personally, that Kṛṣṇa is helping them, that Kṛṣṇa is that person who's going to get them through everything, that Prabhupada is the person who taught us how to do that. So share with them, be open, be friendly with them, and encourage them. And if they're not taking, then find another avenue to interact with them. You know, there's so many different ways, through music, through reading, through cooking, through friends. Help them to find some devotee friends that have some interest in Krishna consciousness. But it is a very important topic which all parents take very seriously. And we just have to remember there's competition for their attention, a lot of competition. And if they don't take us as their friends and their support, they will find that from others. I hope that helps.
Yes, Prabhu, that helps a great deal. Thank you.
Anyone else have something?
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for the wonderful points and re-emphasizing on the core of spiritual life. And also these wonderful question answer sessions are very, very helpful for me personally. Just hearing everyone's questions, I feel like this is so purifying. So if there are no more questions, we can pause, or if one last question we can take.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Then not a question, but very nice lecture, Prabhuji. Learned many few things, and also, you know, learned from the answers you have given to the other questions. Sometimes, you know, we feel that is what, you know, we want to listen, but you anyway tell. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, just as we are all interacting as a family, more or less, so we have to make sure our children feel part of that family too. Not by force, but because it's very attractive to them. And as their intelligence develops, they will see there's a difference between devotee association and non-devotee association. They will be more attracted to the devotee association and therefore devotional life. But this is something they have to learn. You can't force it. I know one friend of mine, Godbrother Kalakanta, he said about his own children, he said, it's a great realization when you finally understand that you're not living through your children. You can't vicariously live by their experiences. They have their own life, their own consciousness, their own desires. And They have to live their lives themselves. We just offer them the best opportunities that we know how to do. With love. So, should we stop here? Is there anything else?
Okay, Prabhuji. Yes, I think we can pause.
Yeah, all
So-
glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories.
Let's express our gratitude to His Grace Ramiya Prabhu for this wonderful nectar and this association by chanting 3 times loudly. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, His Grace Ramiya Prabhu ki jai. Grace Mata Mata Ji ki jai. Prabhupada ki jai.
Vilas Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare
Jai Krishna. Thank you so much for joining. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.